and welcome to My Fit Money. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Jeff Mathies and Steve Foltz of Mathies Financial Partners. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing great.
Doing great.
You know, it's a beautiful day to talk about money, isn't it?
It is.
I want to just jump right in. I love the title of the show, My Fit Money. I would love for the viewers to understand what it is that we're talking about when we're talking about My Fit Money.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. How did you come up with My Fit Money? What does it mean? What's behind it? And what happened is when we started thinking about the process we want to use for people, for the clients that we walk through our process, we were thinking, what are we going to call it, and how are we going to design this to make sure that people are getting the most use of our time and their own? And what we did was we just put all the advisors around a table and said, what are the common issues that we've been running into for as long as we've been in this industry? And that spiraled into this amazing process that we call MyFit. And the MyFit process, every letter in MyFit stands for something. There's a lot of meaning behind it. And it's a big piece of the conversation we have with families while we're trying to figure out what does this plan design need to look like for you and into many years into the future, and then on to your kids when you're finished with it. So we can go through each one of those if you like and talk a little bit about what it means and why it's so important.
I think that would be really helpful for the viewers, and I love how you're talking about, you know, this kind of partnership, because when you're dealing with people's finances, it's not just that one person, right? I mean, there's families, there's always maybe charities, but there's always extenuating circumstances, and it's so important to know the whole picture. It
really is, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we treat the relationships we have with these families, not only are they really important to us, but we actually treat it as a partnership. Too often you have people who go and they hire a financial advisor, and basically what happens is they go, here's all my stuff, just do something with it that's hopefully productive. And then when they come in to see us years later, we ask them, why do you have these things? What's inside of them? What questions did you ask before you purchased it? And they have no idea what they have. They don't know why they have it. Essentially, they gave their stuff to somebody, they built what they thought was going to work well, but the client was never involved in any of that process, really. And for us, we want them to know this is a partnership. We know what our job is. We're good at that part. You're going to have a job too, and that job is focused around following the plan, learning as much as you possibly can, accepting the education that we're going to provide you. You know, show up to our coaching classes. Call us when you have questions. That partnership is critical.
I love that term, education, because this is not part of our standard education, right? And it really needs to be. And so many people, I think, are intimidated to ask questions because they don't even know the right questions to ask.
Right. That's a really important thing, is learning the right questions to ask. And that's 100% part of our process, is helping investors learn the right questions to ask. And I had an interesting thing happen once. I had a client who met with me first, and I said, well, you know, I always meet with couples together. I don't meet with just the guys, you know.
Thank you.
And he goes, you know, I need to make sure I know who you are before I inflict you on my wife. And that was his word, inflict. And I'm like, wow, that was a protection thing for him. He's like, I am going to protect my wife from people who I don't know and I don't trust. And then he brought his wife in the next meeting. And the interesting part, tying back to what Jeff was saying, was she started coming to coaching classes regularly. Every month she was in coaching classes. And after about 1.5 years, she came up to me and she goes, you know, Steve, I'm starting to get it. And she's like, this is like learning a second language.
100%.
And it was that process of her committing, because that was our, you know, statement to her, is I want you to commit to joining us in this process of education so that you can learn. And the sad thing is, 5 years later, her husband passed away. And it was her responsibility at that time to pick up the ball and run with it, but she didn't need to learn anything new. She already knew everything she needed to know. And there was a certain amount of peace surrounding that portion of her life so that she could focus on the current portion of her life.
Is this something you're still offering in your offices? You do classes for your clients to come in and learn?
It looks a little different today than it did
I'm sure.
pre-COVID.
Right.
But we're trying to get back to where we can bring our clients together as a community, because it's just like when you do anything with a family, people start to communicate with each other. And it's a powerful thing when you watch your clients, who are also your students and they're learning, actually start to teach each other. That's like cross-coaching a little bit.
Right,
it's
exactly.
really powerful
And you
for
feel
us.
so proud. You've given them the tools.
When they become the coaches, it's pretty neat, because the clients that have been with us for a long time will start to answer questions of the new clients and they're really good questions, but it's a powerful thing for us to see our clients
That's
actually
wonderful.
answering questions back and forth. It's like, why are we even here right now?
I love that.
You're doing
because,
great.
I mean, information is power, and I love that you offer this to your clients, because like I said, I feel like a lot of us are flying blind, and to you, it is a first language. To the rest of us, maybe not so.
Right.
And there's a lot of moving parts in finance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would love for the viewers to understand, I know that there's a lot we need to talk about as far as the MyFit process, but exactly what it is that you're offering today for the viewers of the show who are sitting here and getting this education with us.
Yeah. If you're watching today and you have any concern about the future of your investments, or where your income is going to come from, or just what's happening generally in the markets, and you just need a little guidance, want to have a conversation, I want you to call me. For the first 15 people who call today, we're going to offer you a complimentary retirement rate of review. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a deep conversation about what you want your income to look like in the future. We want to talk about, where's it coming from right now? How secure is that? How is it impacted by taxation? What are we expecting taxes to do in the future? I mean, these are deep conversations, and we want to have a phone call with you about all of those things and answer as many of your questions as we possibly can. But you have to call 844-234-3939, set up a time to talk. You'll talk directly with me, and then we'll see where that goes. If the relationship develops, then we'll have you come in and meet the team and ask all the questions you want at that point.
I love that they're getting to talk to you first. This is so wonderful, because these people know now when they pick up the phone who they're going to talk to. They're going to understand who that voice is behind the phone and really get that process going, because this is a very unique and individualized process. It's not the cookie cutter answer for everybody.
Right.
Exactly.
So that number is 844-234-3939. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to get to some more of the MyFit Money process and how you can start planning for your retirement.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hello and welcome back to MyFit Money. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Jeff Mathies and Steve Foltz. And we were talking before the break about the MyFit Money, the term. It means something to you. It's an acronym.
Yep, it's an acronym, and it's the critical piece of the education we provide to our clients right at the beginning of the relationship. So I'll go through what each one of these means and why they're so important. So the first one, the M, is for money. think about your money, it's kind of what the focus is of what you're saving and how the investments are working and all of that sort of thing. When you get to retirement, the money is critical. People say money can't buy me happiness, but I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think money is what is required for a lot of people to be able to travel to see their grandkids, to go on vacations and relax, to escape reality sometimes. You can't do that without money. So I think money can provide a lot of happiness. So the M in MyFit stands for money. And I also think it's critical because when you think about this year alone, I mean, this is the worst start to the stock market since 1932, right? So the money portion of this is the biggest question we're getting right now. What are we supposed to do with this? People are terrified. They don't know how to react. They're trying to call friends and people they can ask questions to, and they're not getting any real answers. If you turn on the news, they're saying people are flocking to bonds. Well, this is also a really bad start for the bond markets. So there seems to be no hope in sight. So when we talk about the MyFit process and the M meaning money, that is a very deep conversation about what is the expectation of this? How does this money need to be positioned to make sure that it is still going to do the heavy lifting for people so they don't have to go back to work and deal with that? The Y stands for you. And the reason we call it you, it's because your plan is different than everybody else's. There are no two plans that are the same. I have seen some of these big box stores when people come in and they go, here's my stuff, they give it to them, and they all come out with the same plan. I mean, it may look a little different, but at the end of the day, it's the same. And for us, it doesn't work that way. There is a lot of questions that we go through to make sure that the plan designed for people is exactly what needs to take place for them to make sure that they have a successful investment experience and a successful retirement. So you stands for you. It's your plan, it's your style, it's your incomes. They're all different from everybody else. And your plan has to be customized for you.
And there's a psychological component, yes? I mean, just finding out from someone, for example, how comfortable are you with risk and those types of questions, or when do you think you might want to retire and how do you see your future? Those things, there is an emotional and psychological component to a lot of these.
It's really important. We've had people come in, especially lately, who have said, Jeff, my whole investing life, I have just had money in the markets, and I was expecting to retire next year. But at the cycle we're going through, I mean, the markets are down 30%. How are they supposed to retire with that type of investing path? They can't do it. But they didn't know the right questions to ask before this happened. So we have to try to teach them, here's what questions you need to ask when it comes to your income streams, and how do you make sure that your future income stream is not going to be depleted based off of compounding the loss from market volatility. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A big part of the very first time that I meet with a client, we ask a lot of questions about them, what is important to them, like, are you supporting anybody else? Beyond the two people that are sitting in this room right now. You have to really dive in and talk about those things. And you need to really understand the perspective from where they're coming from, kind of the difficulties that they've had in the past, because most people have come from a point of, okay, I've been doing this for a period of time, but this part of it really just has not been working. Mm-hmm. And so you have to uncover those things before you can really move forward.
I've said this before, but I feel like there's no more personal thing you can be dealing with other than health and wealth. And for a lot of the viewers out there, I think it does take a little bit of a nudge sometimes just to get off your sofa, pick up that phone and call. And it's so important that we don't delay on these things, especially in climates, financial climates like what we're in now, because we don't know. Tomorrow could be a lot of a different picture than today and the day after that. So now is the time, kind of while the sun is still shining, we need to make a plan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The plan is critical, and that plan, it's beyond just plan creation. That plan is it's fluid. It has to be updated. It has to be talked about often. It's not something where you go, well, I got a plan, I got it 10 years ago. We're good. Really? Do you think investing is exactly the same way it was before 2020? Absolutely not. We have learned a lot of things through the 2000 bubble crash, the terrorist attacks, the subprime lending crash, and now the COVID situation.
Well, and on
It's
top of the
different.
way the world has changed, individual lives, everyone has been so impacted. I guarantee within every single one of those households, somebody's had a loss, somebody's had an illness, somebody's changed jobs. So we need to update the plans to reflect all of these things.
Yeah, and things they're so different. Even when you think about, well, what are my kids going to do when it comes to college planning? How are we going to pay for that? Money moves very, very fast the way it sets today. It is fast. You can turn on the market turn on the news and look at the market at 9 a.m. and turn it back on at 2 o'clock, and it is a very different story.
Even
I
at
mean,
the
money
gas tank,
moves
if you haven't
so
gotten
fast.
gas in a week, you go back to the gas tank and it's $1 more now. I just am floored by how fast everything is changing, and we're all too busy or too distracted to even deal with it because there's just so many things coming at us.
Yeah.
Now, what do you say to the people who come to you with a stack of papers and their statements and they say, here's my plan? You know, that's not a plan.
No. Usually what we tend to do is roll our sleeves up, take our jacket off, take a deep breath and say, okay, let's dig in.
Yeah, one of the things that's critically important is understanding that. So I'll just, there's this one instance that really pops out to me. Somebody came in and showed me exactly what you said from their broker-dealer about what they were doing. And I spent literally a weekend analyzing what they had. And I came back to them with the news that they're paying about 6.5% in fees a year. And that was automatically renewing contract every 2 years. And I showed them that, and they disappeared. And I was floored because that's such a big problem. And so then, and we don't chase people, but I just picked up because I cared about them. And I'm like, called them like 2 months later, and I haven't heard from you. I'd really like to help you. And their response was, I've just been waiting, and now's the time. And they came in, and now I work with them, I work with their kids, and it's just been a transformational experience for them to engage with a different system that is transparent and, you know, helps the entire generational family, because that's what we're talking about.
I think it's part of sometimes the human condition. Sometimes we don't know that we want the answers. We're afraid of what they might be. But in these instances, I have to say it gives me so much peace of mind to know that ultimately, if your goal is to sit on the beach and sip that margarita, there is a way to get from here to there, but we just have to have a plan for it. So who wouldn't want that?
It's scary. In the case Steve's talking about, it wasn't a small amount that
No,
they
it wasn't.
were paying $60,000 a year in fees on this account. It's unbelievable. And for us, it's like, how much money do you need to make off of one family? This is ridiculous. Which I think is the biggest difference between a fiduciary relationship and your typical brokerage relationship. Something like that would never be allowed in the world that we live in. It's just unbelievable, some of the things we run into. And the client had absolutely no clue.
No idea.
No idea. Because of the way it was
I
structured.
absolutely love how you said you just picked up the phone because you cared, and it just something clicked, I think, in both of you that it was the right time, and timing is so much of it. And that is why I implore you, if you haven't heard from your financial advisor since prior to 2020, or you don't necessarily have a financial plan, now is the time to pick up that phone. This is just a gift from the Mathies Financial Partners to you for taking the time to sit with us today. That phone number is 844-234-3939. We do need to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the measure of financial success.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to My Fit Money. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Jeff Mathis and Stephen Foltz, and we are talking about the acronym of MyFit. I know we were able to get through part of it, but I really would love for you to get to the F, because this is my favorite one.
Yep, and I won't spend a ton of time on it, but the F stands for family. It's a very critical piece of the puzzle. For people like me, you work your entire life saving money to make sure that if something happens to you, your family is taken care of. And Steve talked a little bit about family a little while ago, so we'll call it good there on the explanation so we don't start crying up here. The I stands for income. And it's a big piece as well because people need to know, where's the income coming from? There's so much question behind, is Social Security going to be there for us? Is it going to look different? What are the changes coming down the pipeline? Because you've got to expect that to happen. And, you know, a lot of people don't have pensions the way their parents did and grandparents. So they're on their own to figure that stuff out. So at some point in time, there's a point in time when you stop worrying about figuring all this stuff out yourself and you hire a professional who has the programs and the fancy calculators to figure out, here's what you need to do to make sure you do not run out of money, and it will last you the rest of your life.
Which I'm sure is the biggest fear of the majority of your clients, right?
Absolutely.
Especially with longevity being, you know, as it is. I mean, it's a blessing. We get to live longer, but we just want to make sure that there's something there at in the end.
Yeah, it's a real coaching kind of crisis for some people because they have a perception of longevity, which is 82 or 84, and sometimes we forget that that's a 50%. That's not even a pass-fail in high school, you know? So, and then when you look at a family together, because this is what we're really talking about, you're looking at there's like at least a 60% chance, one person, if they make it past 65, is gonna make it to 90. And that's a totally different planning process. And we don't plan for failure, we're planning for success. And having the idea that, oh, it's okay to run out at 84, that's a failure.
It does always seem sad to me that there's a fear of that in some people, a fear I might live too long, which it shouldn't be a fear. It should be the blessing. It should be what we all want to attain. We just need to plan for it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the plans that when people come to see us and they've got a plan that they received before, I think where we find the dysfunction in that plan is they tend to go at income from the front side. And we come at income from the back. We want to build those plans in reverse to find out first, what are your expenses right now? What are they going to be in the future as close as we can guesstimate? And then we build the income plan around that future expected income need. Not trying to say, well, here's what it's going to take care of you today. Wish you well, good luck. It's we try to future pace the income plan to make sure that in the future there's enough there. They're not going to run out of money. And we build that out in buckets too to make sure that there's emergency money and other things.
Yeah, it's not always how much money you have, but where you pull from that a lot of times is more important.
It's important. So that's the I, that's the income. The T stands for taxes and transparency. And right now, taxes is a big topic. People have a little bit of concern that tax rates are going to jump pretty high. I mean, we already know that in 2026, tax rates are going up. It's going to happen with no legislation. It's already there. It's going to happen. And the problem is, Steve and I were doing the numbers looking at what the national debt is, and you think about what the government does to bring in money. Where do they get their money? There's one place, taxes. That's where their income comes from to pay the bills. And they bring in about 50% in taxes of what they spend every year. So if you think about what your tax bracket is, it would have to double, everybody's bracket would have to double before they would have enough money to pay the bills. So which way do we think taxes are going to go? So when we talk about taxes and transparency, one of the goals we have is we want to make sure that when it comes to your income in retirement, it is as tax efficient as possible. Because if 100% of your income is taxed and that number continues to get bigger, How much money do you have left to spend on goods and services?
And it's interesting because a lot of people have the perception that people like us spend our time talking about money and how it's invested and what you're doing with the money. But there's a greater amount of movement in the needle of taxes and your experience of taxes than there could possibly be with the investments and what you do with your investments. And so when you look for opportunity in a plan, that's an important part because you can move the needle 10%.
And this is different because I think most people are very focused on tax preparation, which is history, right? That's in the past. So
That's
this
the
is
past. We're
planning so that we all need to pay our taxes. It's our right and our privilege as American citizens, but we don't need to pay too much. So proper planning can avoid a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I'd love to, we're always running out of time, but I'd love to let the viewers out there know what it is that you're offering today, because this is a special offer just for the viewers of this show.
Yeah. So what we're doing for you today is, and I said earlier this was just going to be for the first 15 people. Forget that. We're going to blow through that. If you call and you set up a time to speak with me, we're going to go through what we call our Retirement Ready Review, where we're going to have a conversation with you about your income. We're going to answer any questions that you might have in regards to that. We're going to talk about your investments. Do you have any questions or concerns about the positioning there? We'll do the best we can to sort that out on the phone, but that might be something we have to get together to look at. We're going to talk about your goals, and we're going to talk about the MyFit process and what that looks like for you and what we're doing to help families with the MyFit process and what that experience looks like and feels like. And you first have to call 844-234-3939. Get on the calendar, spend some time with me. And my suggestion before you do that is grab a pad of paper and write down the questions that are popping into your mind right now, because this show's going to end pretty quick and some of that stuff is going to escape you. So I would write those questions down. Then call 844-234-3939. Get on the calendar. Let's spend a little bit of time together and sort out what those questions are. Try to remove some of this confusion that tends to be flying rampant in the country right now.
I love that you talked about giving your clients an education. To me, this is something we all could use, and the fact that you're giving it complimentary to the viewers is astounding to me. So why not pick up that phone and make that phone call? There is really nothing to lose other than just getting a peace of mind to know, are you on the right track or are you not? Because I'm sure sometimes people might be on the right track, but you won't know until you give us a call.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time. I even always get to get an education, so I appreciate it. And thank you for sitting with us and learning more about how you can be financially successful in your retirement. We hope you'll join us on the next show.